Okay, so evening to everyone and to Liesel, our other OT for Media Studies. For those who don't have me for Media Studies or didn't have me for Journal last semester or anything, I'm Anwin, or most of the students will call me Annie, and I'm the lead OT for Media Studies. So tonight on our NSS, we're going to go through the part which is due on Thursday. I know for my groups, we've already done a first glance at the part, and I helped you all through it in our last collab, but tonight's the official one to break it down and everything. Before I begin, I just want to say to you guys, please know there is no such thing as a stupid question tonight. If there's something you are unsure of or something that you need some clarity on, please ask. Okay, I'm here to answer any and all questions to do with the part. So chances are, if you are thinking it, someone else is thinking it too. So I'd rather you ask the questions and get the answers than feel that you are unsure or don't know what's going on or whatever it may be. Okay, so please ask away. For my groups, just remember, if you're battling with anything, WhatsApp me. I know I've had a whole lot of you WhatsApping me over the last couple of days, so you're welcome to carry on with that. And use our group chat so that if there's something you're battling with, again, if you're thinking it, someone else is probably too. Okay, so I'm going to dive right into this part. Liesel, please feel free to add anything along the way as well, if there's anything you can think of. And guys, you can either chat or put your hand up if you want to talk, if you find it easier to verbalize rather than type it out. Just depends on how your brain works. Okay, so we're going to start right at the beginning in terms of the layout and the referencing, and then we'll get into the part itself. All right, so in terms of structure, you need to aim to have your cover page. On your cover page, I'm just going to type it here at the bottom of this module outline. So on your cover page, you need to have your name. Okay. No one jump the pages, just because then it's going to cause a problem for everyone. Okay, cover page. So we're going to have your name. You're going to have your student number. Please, guys, put your OT's name, okay? Because with having multiple OTs, and if anything gets muddled, at least we can see, right from the beginning, oh wait, somehow one of Liesel's has ended up with mine, or vice versa. So please put your OT name. Also put your module code, because you guys are dealing with media studies and comms and everything under the sun. Please make sure you put your module code at the beginning, because especially those that might maybe have me for NCTE or Journ as well. So it just means that we know that everything is correct and there's no confusion, because we have had students who go and upload the wrong assessment by mistake. And, if we can pick it up right from the get-go, then we can then comment and say you've submitted the wrong assignment or whatever it may be. So please just make sure you do that. After your cover page, you should all have a contents page. Then you should have your written assignment and then your reference list at the end. Okay, so it's a very standard format, nothing too over the top. Just make sure you have each of those elements present, because that's correct academic protocol. Any questions with that? I will ask that a lot. I will stop at every point and ask if you've got any questions to make sure that everyone is clear and understand what's going on. Okay. Right, perfect. So yeah, you can say that you're good, thumbs up. Again, just ask away. All right. So now, just to reiterate, with regards to the essay structure, do we need to have subheadings? Michaela, I'm going to get to that in a second. Let me just work through the stages. I just want to speak to referencing first, and then I will speak to the academic structure as well. Okay. Guys, please, when you are using your prescribed material for okay, so the EBSCO host link is there. This is speaking to 2017. Most of you are possibly using the newer version of it. Please just look at your copy that you are working with, whether it's the EBSCOhost one or if it is the hard copy. Please just look what your publication date is at the front of the book. But more than anything else, please note it is free. Okay, I've had every spelling under the sun in assignments of, leaving out the R, leaving out the U. It's your prescribed material. Please make sure your spelling is correct. Okay, it might seem pedantic to others, but really at this stage, we do expect some level of correct acknowledgement to the author. Wasima, yes, so some of you are running second edition 2018. Some people even have a 2020 copy, so it just depends on which edition you are working with. Okay. Please just be careful with that. Please make sure that, when you are looking for sources for the assignment, that you find credible journals and websites and books and whatever it may be. Just make sure, it's not Sally Sue's blog or some random person's views on it. Look for credibility. And normally we say it needs to be something that is a source in the last, 5 years or whatever it may be, because you are dealing with the history of media in this, and apartheid in particular in this essay. Some of you are going to find older sources that is from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and what have you. Those will be accepted if they are speaking specifically to the apartheid era and the media at that particular time, because that is academically correct if they are referencing and speaking to that particular era. If you're speaking on more current stuff and the shift and the SABC today and what have you, that obviously needs to be newer and more relevant sources. But I have had quite a few people say, is it okay? This is old. And I'm going, yes, it is old, because it is reflecting on the media at that time, looking at the apartheid era. Okay. Just a reminder that Liesl and I do have our 5 to 10% that we can deduct. That is for weak and poor referencing. That does not mean that, if you only reference once within the entire essay, you'll only get minus 10%. If you do that, then you are looking at being called in for plagiarism or referencing issues and what have you. But just remember that there is the referencing rubric, and that we have the powers wrong, but we have the ability to minus 5 or 10%. So if we see that you are attempting, but you are still making a lot of mistakes, it can be minus 10. If it's maybe just the odd mistake in your reference list or within your in-text referencing, maybe you putting full stops instead of commas, then it would be minus 5. Guys, I also cannot stipulate enough that if you have used the same source, like free, throughout the paragraph, you cannot only reference at the end of that paragraph. What you are stating, there's two schools of thought here. The one is that you are saying only that last sentence which you are attaching that reference to, that is referenced, which means that you have the entire paragraph that is unreferenced. Or, a lot of people go, well, that means your entire paragraph is paraphrased and there's no thoughts of your own. Neither of those scenarios are correct. Every single time you pull a piece of information from something, you need to reference it. So if that means you use free 4, 5, 6 times in a paragraph, you need to in-text reference it every single time. So yes, you know that apartheid means separateness. And yes, I know that it means it was a segregation of races. But you only know that because you've learned it at school or you've learned it at university. So you have to find a source to support that statement that you have given. Needs to be referenced before each full stop. Yes, correct, Almas. And also, guys, please don't put your full stop before your in-text reference. A lot of students do that. They'll put the full stop and then put the reference. That technically means you're attributing that reference to the next sentence, which doesn't make sense. Okay, so please you need to think about referencing throughout your paragraphs. The other thing you need to think about is ensuring that you have a mix of references per paragraph. Liesl and I do not want a regurgitated paraphrase of the textbook. All right? We are both educated people that have done our own media studies in our lives. We do not need to reread the textbook. Okay? So you need to make sure that you integrate other sources throughout those paragraphs. If you only refer to a reference once, does that mean 5% deducted? No, Julia, that wouldn't be the case. You have to have a minimum of sources, which we're going to look at in a minute. If you find a source and only one part of that is relevant to your essay, you can use it once. That's absolutely fine. If you use that source 5 or 6 times, that's fine. You just can't reference once in a paragraph and only reference at the end of the paragraph that particular source. Because if you're using that source, let's say there's 3 points of information that you need to draw from a particular source, those 3 points of information should all be referenced. Cassidy, can I ask if we can use websites such as Essay History? Yes, you can use those sources, Cassidy. So for those who did journal last semester, we used Essay History, and you have to use the SABC website for this. For those that are in my group, we spoke about the mandate. I'm going to speak about that again tonight. So some websites are useful and credible. Essay History is one of them. SABC is one of them. Okay, so those are legitimate sources. You can't speak to the SABC mandate through another source. You need to speak to it with the SABC as the main source. Yolandi, I have some info from social media companies to discuss current trends. Yes, Yolandi, that would be accepted. Social media is a relevant source of information, but it is dependent on who writes those sources. So, for example, if it's Media24 or if it's someone that has got the blue tick or is verified, those are sources you can use. But sources, again, if it's someone's random opinion on something where they do not have the journalistic background or the political background or what have you, obviously those can't be used. I don't know, Liesl, are you the same? Do you agree with that for the essay?
Yes, Aaron, I'm fully in agreement. Happy with that. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Okay. So, guys, at the end of the day, it's about the validity of the source. It's about making sure that the sources that you're using add value to your essay. Sources must never be present just for the sake of a source being there, because the reality is, Liesl and I mark hundreds of scripts a year. We can see the students that are just chucking in sources and a particular piece of information just for the sake of it. Remember that every time you put forward a piece of information, how you need to think of it is like a circle. You put forward a piece of information, all right? Then you discuss it, and then you need to close it up. So if you go and put forward the fact that the SABC needs to reach the South African people at large, you then need to discuss why that point of information is relevant. And then in some instances, you need to back that up with other sources, and then explaining the relevance of that second source to that first source, closing the loop. Okay, so it's always important to make sure that when you have put forward a piece of information, that you are not going, oh, she has, like, how is she going to know what I'm trying to say? Or, you know, if you read it and you go, I don't know if I've actually explained myself correctly, or I don't know if she's going to get the point of what I'm saying. If you are questioning it, chances are we're going to question it, and we're going to be like, well, why is this here? Because we shouldn't be asking that. You never ever want your OT to be the one filling the gap. So you never put etc. and so on and all those kinds of things, because we're not going to fill the gaps with our knowledge to give you marks. Okay, we're giving you marks based on your knowledge. So it's really important to remember that if you're asking questions, we're asking questions, you're going to lose marks. Yolandi, you made use of registered companies. Perfect. Because, yeah, it's all about what you're trying to argue and what you're trying to present. Okay. Before I move on to actually breaking down the part bit by bit, are there any questions? I am going to go back to the question about the structure in a minute. I'm going to move on to structure, and then I'm going to move on to the actual question. Let me just go to the next page here. Okay. All right, so in terms of structure, when we asked earlier about, Michaela asked in terms of the subheadings. So if you have a look in your assignment instructions, you will see that it says use subheadings. Liesl, you can agree or disagree. How I personally structure it is that for some people, subheadings help with their writing. Others, subheadings break their writing and they lose their flow and their train of thought. So my stance is you've got to use what you are comfortable with. So if you like using subheadings and you write better with subheadings, then go for it. If you find it works against your writing style and your academic writing, don't use the subheadings. Liesl, what's your take for your group?
I am completely in agreement with that. I personally, for my own style, like subheadings, but I know everyone doesn't work like that. So please feel free, my group, to not use it if it doesn't work for you, or use it if it does, just as long as the logic flows sensibly and it's easy to follow. Then I am absolutely open to whatever works best for your learning and academic style as well.
Okay, perfect. So for me, I don't like subheadings at all. So yeah, it's very dependent, and each of your OTs will take their own stance. Some are very subheading forward, others don't like them at all. So there you go. It's open to both. I'm just going back, Lou, two different SABC sites. How Yolandi's done it is correct. You'd have 2023A, 2023B. So you can have multiple sources from the same site. You just need to clarify them being A, B, C, D. Okay. The reference list, you would identify it in the same way. Yeah. So you'd need to identify which one is which. The idea is that we need to see, because if you're saying SABC and you're using it from a site and you're actually using three different aspects of or three different SABC pages, whether it's maybe an article they've written or the mandate or whatever, we need to know that it's not just one source, especially when you have to meet the requirement of 4 credible sources. Okay. So let's just have a look at the instructions here. This says you're going to write an essay of 15 to 18 words based on the case study that's going to be presented. Again, Liesl, we need to hear your input here. For my lot, I always say I give you a 10% leeway, so 180 to 200 words. So for me, no more than 2,000 words.
I'm also, ironically, really also always say 10%. So that is on
Okay.
par with what I would have said, or I probably did say it already.
Okay, perfect. Especially because generally the people that are hitting that upper margin are the ones with more references and what have you. Sorry, so almost in terms of the subheadings count towards word count, yes. So basically what we've been told by our head of humanities is that everything counts to the word count. We don't want people sitting there counting everything, taking out the subheadings, taking out the in-text referencing and everything. Your word count is from your first word in your introduction to the last word in your conclusion. That is what is counted in your word count. And that we got verification from the head of CAT, or our central academic team, saying there should be you've got to think of it as that, so that from your start to your end, that is your word count. Okay, guys, it's not a requirement to put a word count at the end, but I'm sure Liesl will agree it's very nice for us to have the word count, even though we know what like 1,500 words look like. We know how many pages that should take and everything, but having a word count is always a nice touch for us. Sorry, Lou. Yes, maximum 2,000 words. So that 180 to 200 word, which is about 10%. Yeah. We'll see if they need the subheadings out. Well, yeah, again, you've got to do what works for you. There's a lot of content for this essay, so don't, you've just got to do what, again, that you're comfortable with. So let's have a look again. So if you look at the instructions, it says you're required to draw on the theoretical information provided in your textbook, as well as additional 3 sources to successfully complete the part. Then it says you need a minimum of 4 credible sources to support your essay arguments. Okay, so it's 3 additional sources, 4 including your textbook. Okay, so 4 is the minimum. The other argument is that it's 4 credible sources plus your textbook, so then it would be 5 total, but you're looking at 4 to 5. If you want to have more than that, I've had a couple of people WhatsApp me and say they've found more than 5. Are they going to be penalized? Never. Okay. Well, for me, it's if you have spent that time finding that additional research, you're not going to lose marks for it. You're going to gain marks for it. Okay. Then in terms of your structure, your introduction, body, conclusion, remember in your introduction, you will have a general statement, introducing, giving context, putting the essay into perspective. That is followed by your thesis statement. They are in 1 paragraph. Your thesis statement, remember, is the following essay will discuss. This essay will analyze whatever your essay is going to do. So that general statement gives context, puts things into perspective, where the thesis statement tells us exactly what your essay is going to be about. All right. Then in terms of your body, guys, please, I'm sure Liesel will also agree with this. Please give us paragraphs. Please do not give us page-long paragraphs. Okay? Break up your thoughts. Think about grouping your content. There is nothing worse for a lecturer, or sorry, an OT, when we just get these solid pages and we look at it and go, well, you have no idea, obviously, what you're talking about because you can't differentiate the different sections of work. So break things up by thoughts, have 1 or 2 thoughts per paragraph. Yes, lots of paragraphs, as Liesl was saying, because what we're seeing then is you're understanding how certain elements connect and work together. But you need to have a logical flow. So once you've raised a point or 2 points of information, then you should have a sentence joining onto the next paragraph. So by looking at the SABC in the past, we can understand how we need how the SABC functions today, and then that next paragraph will be on the SABC today. Yeah, Yolandi, English is its whole own little like creature. So especially when Doug's concerned. And I love him, don't forget, he's my friend. So, with English, I can understand it's a whole different thing, but with media studies, which is a very theoretical module where it's not interpretation and thought, your own thoughts and everything, it's got to be broken into multiple paragraphs. Guys, please remember for this essay, there is no I, me, we. The only time you can use a pronoun is generally where we talk about our society or our South African nature, but third person should always be the goal. Take yourself out of the essay completely. This is academics, no personal, no opinions, no, in my opinion, sorry, I love you all, but I do not care what your opinion is. What I care about are the facts that you are presenting. Okay. And then for your conclusion, please remember no new points of information. You are summarizing and you are recapping, looking back to your introduction, what you have covered in that essay. Okay, so please just be careful with the structure. Don't make things more difficult for us to read. And the other thing I can say, please, size 11 or 12 font, Times New Roman, Calibri, Arial, and 1.5 line spacing. Guys, that 1.5 line spacing is our saving grace as OTs. You cannot expect us to be able to comment, give you feedback and everything if you do not give us space to actually give you that feedback and the comments and everything. So you have to, and no borders. Almost, you see, you know me so well. Okay, For those who haven't had me before, it's a pet peeve of me where you guys put borders around the page and then expect us to give you feedback. Where would you like us to write the feedback? Yes, I know some lecturers use comment boxes and that, but some of us are old school and use a pen on our tablets and we mark like we would a piece of paper. Luca, you should do the 1.5. That is the VC standard. So preferably go back to that 1.5 line spacing. Some people do use two lines, double line spacing, but the problem with that is then sometimes the essays get too long and can be tedious. But at the end of the day, we would rather have line spacing than no line spacing. So my rule is, for those who have me, if you have borders, if you don't have line spacing, if you do not give me space to write comments and write feedback, don't expect the feedback. And please don't narrow your margins. Keep your margins wide, like normal, regular margins, because we need that space. Okay. So, Liesel, you might be nicer than me, but I think I've drilled this into them for those who've had me for a while. But give us that space. Otherwise, there's no room for us to give that information. Okay, before I go into the essay, I just also want to say for those that did Journ last semester or doing Journ this semester, you can draw on the stuff you did for your Journ part. Because obviously the apartheid era stuff is all about media and everything. Please do not panic about your similarity report. What will happen is the paragraphs that you pull, it will highlight them. We will go, oh, there's 40%, let us look, and we will see the paragraphs that are highlighted. We will click on it, and it will take you to your Journ assignment. So you won't be flagged for plagiarism. You won't be flagged for any issues. Yeah, Amanda, there is a lot of that overlap. So you are more than welcome to use it. You don't need to spend all your time paraphrasing and paraphrasing. We will see it's your own work. That is absolutely fine. So the similarity is there. You can use it, and you can use your Journ's textbooks for the essay as well, because then you've got the first book does speak to the SABC and all that stuff. So you can at least use that as a source. Osima, 2 centimeters left, right, top, bottom. Yeah. Would you reference ourselves? No, Taylor, you aren't at that academic level where you will reference yourself. At this stage, you would just draw the stuff and reference the textbook. Okay. It's only when you get into honors, masters, and where you are considered an academic yourself that you then will go and reference yourself. Okay. All right. So let's get into this essay. Okay, no, before I get into this essay, any other questions with regards to structure, formatting, referencing? Liesel, anything you want to add?
No, thanks, Anman. Everything good on my side. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, you guys all good? All right. We're cruising. Let's go through it. Okay. So you guys can go and read the case study in detail. I'm not going to read it to you like a bunch of 6-year-olds. You're big enough and ugly enough for that to read through it yourself. But basically what the article is speaking to is the forecast for media trends, specifically with a focus on how we are starting to digitally access our content and the fact that, we still have a long way to go, but we're starting to see an increase in digital revenue. We're starting to see that we need to really monetize and look at other means of media reaching society, especially like music festivals and concerts and all that kind of thing. And that we have a lot of online advertising, and we know that there is this shift to society being digitally forward, and we know with our media that is the case as well. We also do know, obviously, within South Africa, we could never be a truly digital society because we don't have the infrastructure for it, we don't have the economic grounding for it, and we don't have the demographic for it. We aren't we aren't a country where technology is the be all and end all. We still have a massive part of our country reliant on newspapers, radio, and everything. Do we need to add this article's reference in our reference list? So almost only if you refer to it. So if you bring it in, which there are some facts in here which I would highly recommend you bringing it in. And if you haven't brought it in yet, what I would suggest doing, find some parts where you've spoken to something which is that could connect to it and add it in. Because the general rule is always that if they give you a case study, that case study does need to be incorporated in some way, shape, or form. So it would be of your interest to add it in. Okay. So let's have a look at the essay itself. So it says fans will go where the content is. So media owners should invest in making sure their platforms are engaging as possible and offer a variety of strong content. The statement shows that with the plurality of media in South Africa, competition for audiences has intensified. And we do know this, we have not a large portion of our South African population, but a decent portion of our population that do rely on multiple streams of media, whether it be your traditional media or your new media. And guys, please remember when you're referring to new media, you're not only referring to social media. New media means any technologically driven media. So that means your websites, your streaming platforms, your social media, your news sites, any form of digital media is new media, because what I find students have had the tendency to do is they speak to new media and social media interchangeably, but actually they are not one and the same. Social media makes up new media, and new media is social media, but they are not the exact same thing, if that makes sense. Okay. I promise I'm not rambling with this stuff. These are just the important things that I just want to raise because I don't want anyone to lose marks unnecessarily. Okay. So what I have done, if you have a look, is that I've highlighted this into 4 sections. So the 4 different aspects, and in terms of mark allocation, word count, and what have you, just to help your brains break it down in terms of where your words should go and what is expected. Okay, and this is based on the rubric. So for those that were in my previous collab 2 weeks ago, we discussed it in terms of how this is all broken down and what have you. No, you would reference Townsend, Amanda, because it shows you the source as Townsend. Okay. So, and also the media online is a good, reputable source. So you can definitely incorporate it. Okay. So I have to struggle with how the SVS has evolved. I feel like it should be positive. But Lou, you don't only have to talk about it from a positive perspective. You can talk about the negatives as well as the positives, because to be one-sided is not looking at it in its entirety. So the reality is that our SABC is very flawed. I wanted to ask about the topic of how the history of South African media has impacted broadcasting trends. Okay, Cassidy, let me break down, and then we're going to have a look at it. Okay. Should we avoid saying new media but state social media or online news sites? And so you can speak to new media if you're talking about media in general. If you're speaking to something that is social media specific, say social media. So it's our view, but backed up with academic opinions. Almost yes and no. It's your understanding. So not your view, it's your understanding through academic sources. So it's your analysis and the compilation of sources to reinforce what you have discovered. Okay. Oh, good, Lou. I'm glad that I've helped you with a bit of clarity there. Okay. So the first thing you're going to do, so how you need to think of it is that we are breaking this up into, so I've broken up the last one into 2 colors, even though it's 1, but each of these sections you're looking at about 500 words each. So you're looking at 2 to 3 paragraphs per point raised here, That is to, if you want to stay well under the 1,800 mark. Obviously, if you want to be more word count, you are going to go with maybe 600 words or 700 words or whatever you're comfortable with. But what is incredibly important to understand is that the red section, the orange, and the yellow and green are each worth 20 marks. So please don't write 3 pages just on the history of South African media and then give me 1 paragraph on each of these. It means you'll get maybe high marks for this and then get 5 out of 20 for the others. So please think about your proportions, please think about the content, and please think about the weighting that Liesl and I have been given in terms of marking. Okay, so the first point is write an essay in which you discuss being Bloom's taxonomy. So when you're having a discussion, you are raising points of information, you are showing different perspectives, you are giving us a deeper understanding. Okay, that is what discussion is all about. It's not just about regurgitating facts to us, it's about showing your understanding and your depth of research. So you're going to discuss how the history of the South African media has impacted broadcasting trends with specific focus on the national broadcaster, the SABC, today. So guys, all of you, you refer to them as the South African Broadcasting Corporation once, and then brackets SABC, and from then on, please refer to them as the SABC. You do not need to, A, waste the word count of South African Broadcasting Corporation, and B, make it more difficult for us to read. Now, when we look at the impact of the broadcasting trends, you need to think about the era in which the media started to really grow. So starting with our newspapers during that time, especially for those that have done journ, we've learned that the media was restricted, that publications were used as a mouthpiece of the government. We know the SABC in particular was basically present as a tool for oppression and propaganda. Okay, so we know those things about the media. We know also during the time, for example, TV only came out in what year? For those who have started their essays, what year did TV reach essay? Okay, 1976, 75, 76. So the late 70s, where the rest of the world was having TV in the 60s and what have you. Not everyone, but it was more prolific. Where here, we did not see the moon landing, we did not see anything, which means our TV, in terms of the trends, TV has always been behind for us. So that then obviously sets the precedent and sets the trends going forward. So it means that we had, Lou, I watched TV for the first time in Rhodesia in 1971. Insane. That is so cool. So it just shows you that that issue, that control, established the trend going forward. So we meant that we have, backwards in certain aspects. The fact that SABC today is still our primary means of distribution, and they are expected to reach the South African audience. But if you think about their international shows, they are all quite a few seasons behind because it's cheaper, because they do not have the funds, because SABC's actually had big financial issues over the year. So the idea here is that what you're needing to do is not just like the journ essay for those who've done it, where it's all just about almost regurgitating the facts. This is about presenting the fact of what happened in the past and how that has influenced the SABC today. So what I would suggest is you can do 2 different structures. Either you do an essay speaking about the past, then doing a comparative paragraph on the present, or what I would think works a bit better is where you would raise a point specifically to do with print media, and then specifically to do with radio and TV and what have you, where you speak to specific points and you speak to the past and the present, and then you can break your thoughts up in that way. I just want to share with those who haven't seen it when you are thinking about the SABC today, the other thing that you need to speak about in terms of the trends and what has happened is that the best way to analyze it and break it down is through the use of the SABC mandate. So the SABC mandate is based on the Broadcasting Act of 1999 or the South African Broadcasting Act. And why this document is so important for you guys, for example, it says it makes its services available throughout the Republic. Okay, that is showing how our media has had to change and adapt because of the past. Because in the past, the media was focusing on segregation, oppression, causing all these problems for everyone. The media SABC today is all about reaching as many people as possible. Okay, so when it's here to provide its public broadcasting services, radio and TV program that informs, educates, and entertains. Those are the three foundations of media: to inform, educate, and entertain, which is in when you talk about in Learning Unit 3, Theme 1, it talks about the media working from those three perspectives. So again, you say in the past, the media was all about segregating, isolating, and what have you, where the SABC today is trying to do this. So your mandate is going to be super important, especially when it speaks to analog and digital. What throws me and just makes me giggle a little bit, because this is so South African, when you look to point I, where it says that it's about sharing and all that of records, cassettes, compact discs, videotapes. So you can say, while they try to be digitally forward, at the same time we're still referring to stuff from bygone era, because in some instances some people still use tapes and videotapes and all that, even though it's difficult to get hold of them. So all that we are wanting is you to think about, not just regurgitating facts to us. Okay. Think about the picture you're trying to paint for us. Okay. Liesel, do you have anything to add?
Nothing to add. Thanks so much, Anwen. All good on my side.
Okay. Perfect. All right, so let's then look at the next point. So that is worth 20 marks. The next one, it says, so we can say the first section is basically comparing then and now. Yes. Okay. Then so that is worth, so when you are doing what you'll see in the second point, it says, in your discussion, illustrate in detail how SABC has evolved and situated itself to the current state of media consumption trends to remain relevant and competitive to the audience. So where the first point is focusing on the trends and looking at the past and the present, the second part, it's your illustration means to provide examples. So you are looking at, for the 20 marks is looking at the theory side of things. The next 20 marks is the examples that you provide to show not only how they have changed from past to present in terms of oppression to press freedom, but also how they are trying to remain relevant in today's society. So almost you can fix sections basically comparing then to now. Yes. That's a good way of looking at it. It's such a big topic. I spoke more in a general manner and gave a few examples, but did not go through radio, print, TV as separate points. Yolandi, it depends. So I can't say yes or no, because obviously I haven't seen your essay. So I would highly recommend having some specifics with regards to radio or print or TV or something to show that you have researched them. Okay, so what is important with this next one is, if you also again look at the mandate, it speaks to them having concerts and everything to try and reach the youth. That also highlights how the SABC is trying to remain relevant today, also how they are trying to broadcast stuff digitally. So all that stuff you can pull from the mandate. Do we have to talk about print, or is it recommended that we do? Almas, it's the thing is, if you're comparing past to present, so when we say print, don't forget that means pretty much any news article that's written, so whether it be digitally or like in a physical print copy. So when you talk about the media of the past, it was basically print, radio, TV. So for you to leave out print or news articles or or printed stuff, you're leaving out quite a big section, because again, when you compare it to media today, you're talking about all your digital stories and all your digital media that goes up, but it's text, it's words. So to leave that out, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. Okay, I have to go over that again. Okay. Sorry, you guys know I'm a stickler for this stuff. I don't want anyone to lose marks unnecessarily. So I speak a lot of how the SOC lacks in contemporary society in the ways and methods they use to adapt. Renee, that's great. Because that is, like I said earlier, the reality is the SABC is far from perfect. You can also bring in the fact that even though we are in a digital era where technology is so prevalent, that the digital divide means that they are trying to, go forward with the times, but there's such a large portion of our society that is, I'm going to say backwards in air quotes, even though you can't actually see me doing them. There are so many that are still reliant on our traditional media that we cannot ever go fully digitally forward. Okay, so that bringing in that digital divide is a great idea. Yes, thank you. So using that and the mandate and the history addresses all. Yes. Yeah, no, that's perfect. Okay. Then let's look at the last point. So that the first the red and the orange, it's the easiest way to describe it. That's your learning unit 1. Okay. Then learning unit 2 is use at least one media theory to argue whether there is still a need for public broadcaster with the rise in user-generated content, streaming platforms, and an oversaturated market. Okay, so when we're talking about the media theories that they are specifically referencing here, for my lot, if you look at the notes which say theoretical approaches to mass communication, all right, where it lists off the 7 perspectives: positivist, critical perspective, meaning and production, so on and so forth. I'm just going to pull it up here for you guys for the others to see. Jade, I'm going to come back to your point now. Sorry, I'm just busy loading the notes, and if I go off it, then it'll take me another century to load it back on. Sorry, it slows itself down sometimes. So I just want to pull up the theories that they're specifically referring to. Okay, come on, VC Learn, you can do it. Here we go. Okay. These are the different perspectives they're referring, the different theories that you can choose from. I personally would go for technological deterministic or the information society. It lends itself to the other research that you're doing, and it lends itself to the essay topic as a whole. So those are the ones I would personally choose. Liesel, I don't know if you agree with that or if the others you think work nicely.
No, I agree with you on that. Thanks, Anwin.
Okay, cool. It's always nice when your OTs agree, because then it means that marking is a breeze for us when we're doing this together. Technological deterministic and the information society perspective, because those are the ones that are speaking to technology and the influence of technology and media, and the influence of technology on society. So those to me are the most realistic ones to do. Jade, for the orange section, can we use stats and reports of current consumptions? Yeah, of course, Jade. If you can get those stats, please use them. Remember, it always adds to your essay if you can give us stats and facts and statistics to support your argument. Okay. Sorry, I'm just going back to our point. All right, so going back to the yellow. So for this, what you're trying to highlight is that, again, you are going to be highlighting that in South Africa, yes, there is all this digital stuff, but at the same time, we still need the public broadcaster to ensure that we have at least one means of reaching society, reaching South Africa as a whole, should I say, or reaching the South African society. Because yes, we have Disney Plus and Netflix and Showmax and all that, but that's for the wealthy. Okay, that's not for the everyday South African. So for us, you know, the public broadcaster needs to be present because we need to ensure that everyone, it's in our constitution. That's the one thing you can pull in, especially those who have done media law. So you guys went through the constitution in detail. So, you know, it is in our constitutional right that we have access to media and information in some way, shape, or form. So, you know, you can bring that in as well. Then the last thing, which is from Learning Unit 3, Theme 1, is looking at the function the SABC serves with its ever-changing media landscape. So again, we spoke earlier about the function of the media to inform, educate, entertain. And if we look at the SABC, it does those things. It informs us events that are going on in terms of our news sites and our information. It informs us, so that's informing. In terms of education, they have lots of different shows and what have you that help in terms of educating and giving us further understanding. And then entertaining, we have that as well. So what you would need to do is, instead of pulling up the mandate, you would pull up maybe the SABC schedule, which highlights the different shows like Espresso and, you know, the TV shows and what have you. And you can talk about how the SABC serves society at large in terms of informing, educating, and entertaining. So that you're going to look at at functionalism and looking at the function of the media, but specifically for this one, the SABC. SABC yes, almost, yeah, definitely. SABC education, sports, all that stuff. And entertainment goes under actually informing, educating, and entertaining, depending on which perspective you're looking at. Okay. Questions, guys? Oh, well, that's great, Wasima. Then you could bring that in. Okay. Questions, guys? Lisa, is there anything you'd like to add?
Nothing from my side. Thank you, Anwen.
Cool. Almost, you always nervous before assignments. But you've got this, guys. You do. You've got to believe in yourselves. I'm like punching the arm of my chair here. Would one media theory be sufficient for the third point? Yes, it says at least one, as long as you've got one. So the idea is, if you want to talk about one in depth, that is good. If you maybe want to bring in two that you think are relevant and you want to have a little less depth but have two, then that's also absolutely fine. Please do not go over two, because then you're going to waffle and it's going to be messy. You don't have enough word count for more than two. See, must say I'm also quite a bit nervous. Oh, guys, I promise you will survive. I know you do. I did a silly add the date as the 11th, but only in my mind. Am I bored and die? Oh no, Amanda. Yes, it is due Thursday. So the media part of me just is making my heart beat faster. No, man. Don't remember, this is different kind of media. But we need to bring in pluralism into function. Jade, yes, you can bring pluralism in. Definitely. It's hard finding South African sources. Yeah, almost there aren't lots, but guys, don't focus on trying to like get 10, 20 different sources. Focus on a few that really add depth to your essay, because at the end of the day, you need the SABC sources, your textbook. You can bring in the case study, so you already have a lot behind you. I find it a bit difficult. Well, almost just message me, and we can still and we can chat about it further. I can see if I can help with a little bit of clarity. I think I'm missing the mark, but I'm back into the history of South African media to broadcasting trends today. Okay, Taryn, so when you're looking at that, so you're thinking about how things of the past influence us to today. So, for example, if you are looking like with the TV example, TV only came into SA 1975-76. So it means that our TV trends, we were slow on the use of it. It means that there's still been more reliance on radio versus TV. That there's been a shift. If you talk about our press as a whole, the press during the apartheid era was all about oppression and control and restrictions and laws and threats of exile, imprisonment, death, all that kind of thing. So it means that our trends today is a media that is transparent and freedom of the press. That means that, we can report on things like Nkandla, and we can hold people like Ace Magashula, we can hold them accountable when they're doing things wrong. We can report freely without fear of persecution when truthful information is being done. So they're your trends. It's that the past was all about control. So the present and the trends within the South African media is really pushing home this fact that the media is there to act as a mouthpiece, as the fourth estate for society and for our country, to make sure people are held accountable so that we never go back to a point where we are controlled like we were in the past. Go through my pod again before doing so. Okay, cool. I use News 24 for most of my sources on the SBC. Luca, that's absolutely fine. Pleasure, Taryn. We'll do so. Go through a pod and do that. But then they just start another political pod. Yes, I also wondered about that. He really believes in himself. All the lawsuits behind him too. Right. Any other questions, guys? Oh, Lou. How have I not heard that yet? Oh, my soul. Okay. Cool. Okay, sorry to divert the convo. I just wanted to see if the rumor is the part due the 7th of September. Yes, Kaden, it is due on the 7th of September. Liesel, you haven't seen anything to the contrary of that, have you?
I have not.
Okay. Caden's having a mild panic attack right now. Is it okay to use bold to emphasize certain parts, such as lists? Cheryl, technically it's not correct. It's not a bad or good thing. Liesel, how do you feel on bold?
I quite enjoy, but I find that me and you are quite different in our academic and learning styles. But I do like a little bit of bold, especially if there's something that someone would like to draw eye to, but not consistently, and definitely not as a rule. But I can honestly take it either way.
Yeah, I'm not against bold at all. If it's used correctly, don't like if it's every third. I've had people that they think they're trying to prove a point, and there's like bold being used 5 times within 2 sentences. If it's used like oh yeah, Cheryl, that's absolutely fine. If it's that you trying to show the focus of what each of the paragraph is, absolutely fine. But if it's being used every other sentence, please no. Professional academic. Awesome. That's all you can do. Where can you find the pass on the portal? It's under student resources. For those that are in my groups, it's in the OneDrive with all our other stuff. So yeah, if you go to SharePoint, you can pull up the pass and everything there. Don't worry. That's what we're here for. All right. Are there any other questions, guys? Nope. Okay, that's it for tonight then. Thank you for all who joined. I will upload this tomorrow morning on YouTube so that you can listen to it again. I will share the link with Liesel for everyone for her group. And yeah, everyone, please message me that are in my groups. Message me if you have any issues or any questions. Okay. Thanks, Liesel.
Thanks, and when I was busy typing to say, wow, that was really so thorough. And on behalf of my group and me, this has been really, really, really helpful and wonderful. Thank you so much. I will definitely share the link as soon as I get it. And thanks
Perfect.
again for all your trouble.
I'll send it to you in the morning. All right.
Perfect.
Bye,
Thank
guys.
you.
Have a great evening.
Bye.